Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Jody Alexander. I will welcome to the Magnificent 24/7 Reds show. As some of you know who's been in our spaces on Twitter, we've always said we're going to launch a show. Jono had the privilege and the honor of launching it last week. I'm welcoming you back as your host. I missed last week, but it's great to be back as host this week. And we are going to bring in our absolute regulars from the space. So today we have Paul, Sheik, Xander's here, our favorite Mexican American Chase's here, and not forgetting our basically our Man United supporter in the Caribbean, living in Tampa, Devon's on us. Now today's show is going to be really, really simple. All we're going to do is talk about the Antony situation, and obviously Shake's going to lead the conversation on the TRA. So without further noise and comments from me, let's welcome everyone to
I just want to say before we get everyone in as well, massive thanks for all the support on the first episode as well. It did really well. And yeah, let's get into episode 2.
Guys, welcome. It's great to see you all.
It's wonderful. Thanks for having us on. Good afternoon.
Oh, and I forgot, Neil has decided to join us. Welcome, Neil.
Neil, welcome in.
Welcome. So, guys, I will say this, everyone here is a regular on the spaces. You know how we always kind of we're regular speakers on a space together. We all know each other. It's brilliant to have every single one of us together on a space. Unfortunately, we can't get away with what we get away with on a space, so it's going to be very different today. So I don't think we could scream at each other because people are going to think we're weird. But StreamYard, we can't exactly talk over each other, so we're going to have to be a little bit nicer than we usually are on a space. So look. Obviously, the first subject we're talking upon is the Antony subject. The first person I wanted to bring to on this was Paul. Paul, you've obviously seen the first. Now it went from an allegation in June, and now it's obviously we all said we knew something further was going to happen down the pipeline. What are your thoughts since June to now regarding this?
It's a bit of a weird one because this one is basically being played out in the public. It seems both sides have decided the judicial kind of system is being a bit slow. So one side's decided to put her story out, and the other side of the Anthony's decided to respond to it. The big update on it was actually today. I did link it to the chat earlier on. Is the specialist that the Anthony lawyers has brought out has basically made a public claim to say that she's doctored evidence in her reports with the WhatsApp groups. So this also could explain why Anthony has been given a leave of absence by United, because they believe that this could be a very, very quickly wrapped up thing now, because if she's doctored evidence in her original reports, she's lost credibility and the police are not going to take that matter further. If he's got the original WhatsApp messages, the original transcript of the thing, and shows that the evidence that she gave the police is doctored, then the case is over with very quickly. So it's, yet again, we have to wait till the judicial process plays out and see what the police have decided. But from what your lawyer was saying today, she's handed over doctored evidence, which isn't a good look for her, to be honest.
It seems to be like, it's very hard pass because obviously now it's gone from one person to 3 people, and they all seem to be coming out the woodwork. This seems to be like an episode of Telenovela right now, or whatever you call it, as Chase would know. It just seems to be that, to be fair. I mean, I've watched the video this morning. I tried my best not to laugh at the interpretations. I really tried, but I mean, I've got to say, we all don't excuse domestic violence, so I just want to see, based on the statement the club has put out, what do you think on the statement went out today, Devon, on what the club put out?
This is a situation where I think because of what the club did with the Mason Greenwood scandal, they kind of set a precedent for how they have to move going forward. My biggest issue now is that it seems like they're taking the court of public opinion more so than the court of law when it comes to this. The fact of the matter remains is he has not been charged yet, nothing at all, but yet he's still taking this leave of absence, which however you interpret that, it could just be, we'll say in public it's a leave of absence, but really realistically you're suspended. But at the same time, what I started comparing it to is when you look at the situation with that unnamed Arsenal player who we all know who it is, who has the allegations, but yet he's not having to take a leave of absence, anything like that. So why is it only on the United player that's happening? Like, why hasn't the league finally come out and said something like, okay, when something like this is going on, this will be the procedure for every team going forward, so we don't get into something like this again. But I just don't like the club jumping into this stuff before the court of law makes a decision on anything.
Well, the party one's different. I'll say his name. There's a gag order from mainstream media. They can't report his name. I'm not mainstream media. I can report his name, but there's why it's different. That's why there's no public outrage. They can't report his name. They can't mention his name, and that's the simple reason of it. Nothing would have been said about the Anthony thing if your girl hadn't gone to her newspapers straight away as soon as she put in her police report in Brazil. The Greenwood one was different because it was leaked Snapchat messages as Party was accused, and you can't name his name. The league can't do anything.
My point being, though, is that why is he not, removed from the team until the investigation is complete, like the same thing as Antony now as well?
To be fair,
because the newspapers can't report on him.
Exactly. But to be fair, if you watch Arsenal's culture, they've protected drunks, drug users. Let's be honest, this isn't something new. Paul knows exactly where I'm going with the drunks and drug users going back. To be fair, wife beaters, they protected them all. It's a history of it at Arsenal. To be fair,
my whole thing is it needs to be league wide, and every player when something like this happens needs to be treated the same way. Like that's what I'm getting down to at the end.
From the thing I'm getting, I think what their standpoint is that they don't want to do what they did with Greenwood, which is create multiple stories. If you say you suspend Antony, that's one story. Oh, okay, it's over. Now you're bringing him back. It creates another story on top of another story. So instead of creating multiple stories, they're just going to leave it as he's not suspended, but he's on leave. But it
gives him the ability to fight it in the public domain because he's not playing football at the moment. So if he's doing public interviews, public messages to get his story out because he's being attacked from all angles, why he's not playing football, you're not going to get fans jumping on his case going, stop concentrating on that and concentrate on your football. You have a bad performance. It's like because you're concentrating on that. So it gives Anthony a lot more wiggle room to defend his image because he has been attacked about his image with allegations that from his interview, if you believe the allegations, you also have to believe what he says at the same time. He's totally innocent. So him taking a leave absence for football is probably best for all parties because he can just concentrate on clearing his name and then coming back rather than having a one bad performance for Anthony. We know exactly what a lot of the fan base will be like.
Yeah, I think that's the best situation for him right now, staying in Brazil, clearing this up, getting all his ducks and all that stuff, just get it out of the way. And instead of having to come back, have a couple bad performances, and then everyone's just going to keep jumping on him. Obviously, it's probably more important for him to protect.
I was going to say, just in case people haven't read the statement, does someone in the call want to read the statement from the club? Just in case there's someone who's listening who's not read the statement.
I just want to welcome Masood's actually joined the show. I'm so happy to see Masood. Assalamu alaikum, Masood. I'm so happy you've joined in. Masood's another regular on our spaces, everyone knows. All we're missing is our kebab king, to be fair, aren't we?
Salam, guys. Evening, guys. How are you all doing?
Very well, thank you.
Not bad.
It's brilliant to have you on the show. It's we were singing this, we were doing this for months, weren't we? We were going to create our own kind of StreamYard for where we could talk nonsense like we're doing the space. It's just recorded now. But it's brilliant to have you on. I'm absolutely thrilled. Does someone want to read the statement of what Manino actually said? Because I found it wording a little bit weird.
I'm trying to find it, actually.
I'll get it up. No.
It's in the private chat. I put it in the private chat.
I'll get it up. I'll do it if you want.
Club statement.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, you got it, or you want me to read it?
I can do it if you want.
All right, go ahead.
It reads: Manchester United acknowledged the allegations made against Antony. The players who have not participated in international matches are due back in training on Monday. However, it has been agreed with Antony that he will delay his return until further notice in order to address the allegations. As a club, we condemn acts of violence and abuse. We recognise the importance of safeguarding all of those involved in this situation and acknowledged the impact that these allegations have on survivors of abuse.
So I'm interested to understand, Jody. You said there was some stuff that you found, but I can't remember the wording you used before it was read out. Could you elaborate a bit more?
For which the Antony case
that they released? You said that there was something that was maybe a bit funny.
You see, this is what I thought was a little bit funny with this. I find it weird that instead of letting the judicial process run, your first thing is to destroy his career. I don't understand it.
I mean, it depends on what way you look at it, right?
But that's what she's put out. That's what the statement she's put out, hasn't it?
Oh no, well, sorry, right. Her statement are you referring to?
Yeah.
Or are you referring to the club statement?
Well, Man United statements, I'll touch on Man United statement first, but I think I put it into the group today. Didn't know why I said I find it a little bit, it comes a little bit more opportunistic than anything else for me.
Right, okay. All right, sorry. Because Alexander's obviously just read the club statement. That's why I was getting confused. Apologies, mate.
With her statement, it feels very attacking and she just wants to destroy. It feels like every one of her statements has been that way, if you can put it together.
Yeah, but I don't
very opportunistic, and it's hard to.
What do you think of his comments on international? Like, I've seen a lot of different opinions if he should have done his interview in international break that he's done. A lot of people online saying that he shouldn't be doing that if his investigation What is people's thoughts on that?
Why should he not stick up for himself? If people are going out all these allegations against him, and he's saying that it's not true, and if he believes that it's not true, then he has all reason to go out there, get this interview, and say his stance as well too. Especially with the way he's speaking right now. If you're somebody who is really guilty of something, you're probably not doing all of that. Just saying.
Oh, your lawyers obviously are going to tell you.
You have PRTs putting out statements, different things, whatever else like that. But he's speaking very genuine about what he's saying, everything as well too. So
speaking as well,
he has to stand up for himself. She's the one that put this out and made it public, so he has all rights to go ahead and defend himself as well.
Speaking as well as in a way of defending yourself online, the fact that they authorized their specialist, the lawyer team's specialist for coming in to authorize him to go out to refute the evidence that's in the public eye shows a massive confidence from that team. That team clearly knows that she has only submitted screenshots of the conversations from WhatsApp, as it seems to be. I spoke about this in Space, Jody, if you remember a couple of weeks ago.
This is what I said. This is the thing I have with this. That is one of the biggest problems. What judicial department is going to accept a screenshot of WhatsApp where it says you have deleted this message? And we all know when you delete a message, try to screenshot it. That's what it says. So
that's what your expert was showing. She's done it on an older version of WhatsApp where it doesn't affect
it's
it.
not possible.
But
you can't use WhatsApp on the old versions whatsoever.
No, Jody.
That's 18 months ago.
Jody,
you can't.
Has been submitted. Sorry, the evidence has been submitted on her version. You do not see the line of text that reads deleted message, right?
Yep.
But on his, there are additional lines of text in the WhatsApp conversation.
What she's done, Judy? No, Judy. What she's done, you see, she's deleted the message, but she scrolled the conversation down. So where you see
where it says you've deleted
the message,
judicial department is going to accept a screenshot. They're actually going to they wouldn't. They're going to want the full transcript, and there's nothing you can do on the full transcript.
But I bet you her play was her play was that he didn't keep the backed up messages. I think he's kept the backed up messages because obviously your expert has gone through and says he can't show you everything. So he's obviously not screenshotted the message. He's got the actual original on his WhatsApp.
I think he's downloaded the transcript and given it to those lawyers. That's what I feel he's done.
Can I?
Definitely.
They can find that anyway. Even if either of them didn't, there was messages deleted from either party. They can find that all anyway.
No, they can't through WhatsApp.
Go on, Zonda.
WhatsApp's
Actually, WhatsApp's
peer.
It's encrypted now.
WhatsApp's created. Yeah, it's what they call peer-to-peer corruption. So unless you have the original phone with the original app on it, you can't recover their messages from the other side, and WhatsApp won't allow you to go into their servers to recover messages either. They can't read their messages on their server. Yeah, you need the actual phone. You can't even go in with a warrant to WhatsApp because WhatsApp keep it encrypted even on their own servers. It's only decrypted on the phone side.
That's true, because like in sometimes what happens even with guys in normal group chats, if you see every time something happens to different person's phones, it says your encryption with this person has changed or something like that. So it always happens.
It does, but the fact of the matter remains, there's still evidence out. Apart from the message she may have deleted, he still threatened her with voice messages and stuff like that. So how does he explain that one? Because that Bournemouth game last year, he threatened to kill her over her voicemail, and she said that.
It goes both ways. They did it to each other, so that's just between the two of them.
See, I said this the other day. That relation seemed to have gone toxic from the get-go. I think with her having the miscarriage and what's played off, I think it's just ended up in a way, and they're just like.
I think it was. I think it is what he said. You know, it was tumultuous. It was a tumultuous, toxic relationship, and I think, I think her play on. I feel like her play, from everything that I've read about this situation, is he left and she didn't like it, and now she's attacking.
Yeah. With the problem is as well is we don't know the voice message, Jody, is we've not heard it. You can only go off the evidence what we've seen, and the evidence what we've seen is the screenshots that she's publicly put out have been doctored. They've been doctored to a way where
the screenshots aren't out.
Yeah, no, the screenshots are. The screenshots were released by
conversation.
Were released. The WhatsApp conversations are now public.
Some of them, yes.
Some of them, yeah. She released them to the publication.
No, this is just opportunistic. I'm sorry, I can't see any more than that.
Joby, the one thing that I found weird about this case was, do you remember when it first came out, the allegations in June, and then it went quiet. Now I want to know why it went quiet for that long.
Yeah.
And I think, and you look at Brazil, could it be opportunity where she just wants money, because that's what happens in a lot of these countries where people claim that and they just do it for the money.
This happens in every country right now.
I don't even think it's money. I don't even think it's money, Sander.
I think it's she wants to. I think she's angry that he left and didn't want to be in that tumultuous, toxic relationship, as he called it. And now she wants to attack him and end his career. I think
we could say it's so many different things, but what you always have to do.
So funny, Paul. You know what's so funny? He's saying he left. She's saying she left. Okay. What's so funny? You're seeing this anime Phil, and you see them both leaving at the same time.
I think in this situation, what you have to look at is you just have to look at the evidence that's in front of you. We can say this is what she may feel, this is what she may feel. That's all subjectual. But the main evidence that we've seen from her is the only evidence we've seen from her is pictures and screenshots of WhatsApps that have already been shown to be partly doctored. And I'm sorry, but when you're given partly doctored information to the police, you've lost your credibility automatically. The CPS won't class you as a credible witness. If he is extremely confident that she's given doctor information and he hands that over to Manchester police, they're going to look at that, go, you've given us doctor information, we can no longer take this forward. Also, people have been saying he's had 3 accusations against us. He hasn't. He's had 1 accusation of domestic abuse. The second accusation was a fight that was in his car, where they haven't actually said that he actually caused any physical harm. It wasn't a domestic abuse incident or violence against women on his part. It was a police filing that was closed because from all intents and purposes, from what somebody's have saying, is the police deemed it as a fight in a car between all parties. Everybody was the aggressor and everybody aggressed. And the third one was a girl that, if you put it into layman's terms, what she's suggesting is Anthony invited her over for sex. She said no, and he may have pushed her. And you don't know in what context, how hard he pushed her.
No,
did he push her out the door?
This happened in England. That basically what's been said. That's why the GMP's investigating. So basically,
by the way, I think Neil's been trying to speak. He wants to say something as well too.
Yeah, go on, Neil. Jump in, buddy.
Yeah, guys. No, just to touch on what you guys are saying. just a quick one. Did this get thrown out of Brazil?
No.
No, that's why Antony is staying back. I
Okay,
think
so
I think after
Go
him
on.
staying, I think the reason why him staying back as well, I think him and his lawyers have a feeling this is going to end quicker
The
than
one thing I think a lot of
than
I
expected.
think.
Let Neil finish.
Yeah, let Neil finish.
sorry.
Oh no. Because I was just gonna say, could like all of this? I mean, we should have learnt by now as a fan base from the whole Greenwood situation. Now, all of this just seems like, these things have been dug up by this media mafia we've currently got going on that are constantly doing a drive-by on Man United because of who we are. It just feels like all of this has just been amplified by the sheer, reports that are coming out of Brazil, the small little, statements that are coming out. Now there's obviously screenshots on WhatsApp. This is just like, Greenwood all over again, but without the whole images and without the whole 13-second audio clip. Remember,
She's
the person on
she's
my-
done a she's done a TV interview as well, Neil,
Oh,
in
there
Brazil.
we go,
That was
even
the big
worse.
thing. Yeah, that was the big
Well,
one. She didn't get the traction from when she put the report into the Brazilian police, and then she did a big TV interview,
Yeah.
and then her lawyer came out and said, we'll now be
Yeah.
sending this information to authorities in the UK.
Yeah.
You know what I
And-
find it weird though, Neil, and Neil's made a good point on this. Does anyone seem to think like when it goes to these crimes are committed in certain countries, they get swept under the rug unless you make a big song and dance and kick up a stink about it in some sort of newspaper or some sort of media, then it gets swept under the rug. Does anyone seem to feel this is like a not just in
Literally.
South America but other countries as well?
Well, it's like
No.
I feel as well. It's like when you go into crazy third world countries, like Brazil. I'll even mention one, especially that's not too far from me. Mexico. Everything gets swept under the rug.
Yeah.
It's tough.
The point I've got a point, and a lot of people forgot the fact. She made that point when she said that she got treated by Man United doctors. Group said on MySpace earlier on, Jody, that doctors have a duty of care too. If they
it does.
suspect abuse, they have to report it. I want to know, well, if she did get treated by the Man United doctors and they, if they suspected abuse, why didn't they report it?
That's
But
kind of
then
goes
they got-
into what I was about to say, because there was some reports that the club knew more than they're letting on to, and also there's another report thing that come out this week, similar thing that about the club and their conduct. Do you think the club did know more than they're letting on to? Because obviously there's this thing coming out.
Even
You're treading on very, very, very fine ground.
I'll tell you why
Yeah.
this. Nobody who's worked in the medical industry is going to put their pin on the line for the NMC or the GMC. You do not put your pin on the line. You have a duty of care. You've sworn an oath.
Yeah.
You do not.
100
You will never put it on there. So this is why.
Also-
it's not even a duty of care. Even if them doctors did treat her, and it wasn't United doctors. Apparently,
It wasn't,
the line
it
came out. It was the liaison person informed the doctor to come. Inherently, the club couldn't get the information off to the doctor because the second that doctor treated that patient, that doctor has doctor-patient confidentiality. So
100%.
they're not going to go and tell the club exactly what her injuries were. It's up
that
to her
doctor,
to.
if it's a private doctor, does not have to tell Man United anything. Okay.
Even
Secondly,
if it's a
the only
United doctor.
person- Well, actually, if it's a United doctor, legally, because of the way contracts are tied, because you work for that employer, under GDPR, you have to tell the club.
No,
You can
because
tell the club,
your
but is
patient your patient confidentiality overrides that because she is a person that you've treated. It's a bit like if a doctor treats a patient in the streets, doesn't matter who that doctor is affiliated with, that doctor automatically has patient confidentiality with that person. Any medical history that person tells them, any injuries, you can't
Not
share
under
that information.
GDPR. It's no longer same. It's no longer.
No,
he
this
doesn't have to
is
share the
not
information,
GDPR.
but if he thinks there's a crime, and if a crime's been committed at the time when he's coming in, there's a smashed up house, which is what was described by both of them. Both of them said there was smashed up stuff everywhere. Then he has a legal obligation to say, I treated a person. This was the circumstances around I treated the person. the fingerprint, the cuts. Obviously, I don't know what's going on with that cut. To be fair, someone said she could have cut herself when she was smashing up stuff. That's partly true. I'm not saying that she's right. I'm not saying she's wrong. I just find a relationship very, very toxic.
Isn't he saying that she cut himself? I don't know, because obviously there was the thing with the birth.
I understand the hand one. I understand the hand one, but the head one doesn't make sense to me. Can anyone please explain that?
I feel that
isn't
head
he
one,
saying though
that head one
he was restraining her to calm her down?
No, the head one, he said that when he left her that night after that incident, she didn't have a cut on her head, but later on she sent him pictures with a cut on her head, which is a bit weird because she said that the doctors treated her, but they didn't treat the cut on the head and allowed her to take a picture of it. Because that's what he was saying. There was no cuts when he left. She got treated by medical professionals, but then she was able to take a picture of a fresh cut afterwards and then send him that picture.
But the one thing
if she was treated by doctors, why would she have a fresh cut on her head that she's able to take a picture of if the doctors have already treated her?
The medical report from the doctor then.
But why didn't I know it's was a private doctor, but why you have a duty of care that if you suspect abuse you have to report it. And that's
there's certain guidelines. There's certain guidelines to that.
I understand that. I understand the guidelines.
Yes, you've gone into a smashed up. If you've gone into a smashed up house and she is injured, and she's given his story. They've said they've had a fight and this has happened. She's thrown stuff and he's thrown stuff. That's a domestic. That's a domestic incident. It's not domestic abuse. It's a domestic incident.
I know at least here.
But even on a domestic incident like that, the police can be called out legally.
The police can be called out, but the doctor can't. The doctor can't turn around and suspect domestic abuse. If the doctor at that point is hearing these two people are telling them they've had a fight, the doctor can't just turn around and say, "Well, I don't believe."
She's telling the story that she told the doctor what happened.
But that's what I'm saying. But it depends what she's saying that. But did she actually say that? That's what I'm saying. The doctor wouldn't have to say anything. Is at the time she said we've had a fight. The doctor then can act.
I know automatically.
If the cut was so
here,
deep to the bone, you would need sutures.
If there's any type of, you get a sense of violence, domestic violence, you walk into some sort of, that's automatic. You have to they call the police because that patient confidentiality goes out the window automatically. If they have,
but that's in America. That's in America. In Britain, there's guidelines you have to follow. You have to assess the situation.
Out the windows.
Even if you want to follow the guidelines, Paul, right? Yeah, and let's just go by what you're saying here now. Okay, cool. You as a victim of domestic abuse or as a survivor, as some people may say, because it may be, sensitive to the listeners, but if you've suffered from genuine domestic abuse, you would go with full fucking force against that person. And whether that may be, okay, you got treated by a private doctor, show the medical report then at the same time that you got treated by this private doctor. You can gain access as a patient. You can get access to your own personal record and put it out there like a certain Harriet did. But let's just move on.
Well, because that was her thing, and that was her thing in her initial statement. She said she was treated by Man United medical staff.
Okay.
So I want to see. I would love to see the evidence of where of this United who this Man United Man United medical staff treated her, because that is her claim. That was in the initial report that she came out with. Exactly. Man United medical staff treated her,
and every Man United medical staff probably has an audit book of who they're seeing. So who was it?
But the point,
well, we all know. The only thing we do know for certain, it was a player liaison there. That's what we do know, 100%. I don't think she was treated by United medical staff. I think the
also
liaison is
the liaison,
someone else.
Would a liaison have been there, or could have just gotten a phone call and arranged a doctor to go
That's
to
Antony's house? That's what I think it is.
United have private medical staff on call. They're a big sports industry. They have
Yeah,
doctors
100%.
like a Bupa server. So they would have called that. It's not necessarily a United doctor. It's a medical professional on a United retainer. So they're a
Yes,
professional that
perfect.
comes in from outside. Like United doctors are first aiders. They can't, as a first aider, I'm first aid trained because of my job. And they tell you cannot prescribe medicine. You could do paper stitches, but you can't do anything where urine faces to the body. You're not allowed to give medication.
You
You
can't
can
use
only
the paracetamol.
bandage.
Hang on. United doctors aren't first aiders. United doctors are qualified MBBS doctors.
Yes, but
And
can they
don't you
provide
get brought-
GP? But can they
All
provide
doctors can
that?
prescribe.
But Jody,
Yeah.
can I just say, if they are, qualified medical personnel, don't they get brought up that if you suspect abuse, you have to report it?
Yes, you do. But Paul has another point which kind of falls into the correct realms of this. If Man United,
You've muted yourself, Julie.
yeah, I've muted myself. If Man United have in fact hired another doctor to come in as, like Paul suggested, maybe a third party, then he's not bound. He's bound by his patient confidentiality, nothing more under GDPR.
Would he have
But
to report that then,
also though,
or-
even though whoever treated her, supposedly as she's claiming, that should be on a report, though, shouldn't it? This should be on paper that they treated
Yes,
her.
it should be documented by rights. It
But
should be documented.
if it's
This is to be totally fair as well. They've also asked. Our lawyer also said that they've requested to get the CCTV footage from the hotel of the night of the incident. And I'm telling you right now, that hotel no longer has that CCTV footage unless there was a complaint put in that night. Because generally, businesses do not keep CCTV footage for most businesses I've ever worked with a month at tops.
but
They never
some
keep
might.
anything longer.
I mean,
And unless there was an incident that night, then they would keep it.
But,
I mean, that's just my whole thing on this. The moment she said she was treated by the doctors, there has to be some sort of report, paperwork, no matter if they sent something, there has to be something on paper that they treated her. No matter if it's a third-party doctor, there's got to be something there.
You can't. If you treat a patient, it always has to be some sort of paperwork. There's no way you just treat
Exactly.
without paperwork. Even if it's third party, they still have to do a medical history. You can't give any kind of
Exactly.
prescription without a
Jody,
medical history.
Jody,
have
also to Paul's point, if a doctor was treated and he suspects abuse or something, by right, he's not going to try and cover it up because it's Manchester United or whatever it is.
Exactly.
He's going to report it because that's his professional.
I think he came. He treated the cut, and that was it.
Can I just say something on that CCTV footage? But Paul, will some like if it's a hotel and it's like a really like big chain of hotels, where they not have like tapes kept in their security
Archives
rooms from
depending
like,
how big the
archives
servers
and all?
are.
There's rules as well. There's only so long how you can actually keep CCTV footage in that their case because you're a hotel. So there's only so many months that you can keep it because you've got images of people and it's months.
7 years.
7 years. So if there is that, could the police not put in a warrant to get that footage off that night if there was an incident? Because the way I'm looking at it, if they did do that and if it's like as they were saying, if it was both sides, would that not just be a domestic disturbance? Then
if the police feel it's warranted, then yeah, they can do that. I mean, it all depends on how they feel with what they're being given at this moment in time to warrant such a thing being.
So I just want to move on from. I know everyone's had a good say about this. I just want to move on from what's actually supposedly transpired, what's actually transpired, because it seems to be a really great talking point. I think everyone's had some great ideas around it. But the bit it's Man United statement. Obviously, Xander, you've read it, and I wanted to bring Sheik in about it because he was just talking about this. Yeah. And for me, it's the wording. To me, the wording. I look at stuff literal in a language, and I look at wording. Okay, listen to this. Players who have not participated in international matches are due back to training on Monday. Mm-hmm. Full stop. However, it has been agreed with Anthony that he will delay his return until further notice in order to address the allegations. Okay. Second sentence. As a club, we condemn acts of violence and abuse. We recognize the importance of safeguarding all those involved in this situation and acknowledge the impact of these allegations have on survivors of abuse.
Yep.
Which tells me
the way I get from that, the way it's worded is like they believe him, because the way.
I think it's a little bit different. I think Man United have realised they're not doing another Greenwood situation here.
Yeah.
They have
100%.
They've basically given him a leave of absence to sort his shit out. And as the investigation goes further, they'll just keep kicking the can further down the road. They don't have to suspend him. They'll just kick the can further down the road. He's not available for selection. We've given him a leave of absence. And I think they're just kicking the can down the road from the look of it.
I agree. I think the club are taking a step back from the situation. Excuse me, right? Also, that the acknowledgement about the abuse and how they're against it, and and the comment around the survivors and victims and stuff like that. You would see that everywhere. You would expect that from any company, any person. When there's a case like this going on, they're of course the stance is they're not going to be condoning any actions of an abuser, right? But would it be right to have Antony in? If we look at his previous interview, the last interview he's just done, where he broke down and he was talking, where he's also implicated himself slightly with some of the things that he keeps saying. So for me, if I'm not going to tell people how they should act, but if I was in that situation, I would be keeping my mouth shut and trusting my legal counsel to be able to do the job efficiently, right? And without implicating myself further. He's already admitted to verbal aggression, and he's also now admitted to pushing her, which is assault. So, and that was brought up in a space earlier with someone that can speak Portuguese. It was a direct translation, and the word pushing was used. So he has admitted to that. But I don't think it would be right to have him back. I think the club has made the right decision here. An extended leave of absence, I think, is a good measure for the club to have. Allow Antony to focus on what he needs to focus on, and then he can focus on the football, because his mind isn't going to be on the game, is it? Let's be real about it.
100%. I was just going to get to that point as well. Do you think all this happening for the last year or so? I mean, it is for the last year or so, has been affecting his performance as well on field.
I think,
in a sense,
I think the best situation is the situation that they're doing, because I think they've learned from the Mason Greenwood situation is let him go on a leave of absence instead of suspending him, because if you suspend him, you're creating a story, and then you bring him back, you're creating another story. So then you're creating multiple stories that's just not going to go well. So you say, and it's actually kind of a perfect timing for Antony because of the international break. He's already in Brazil, and let him figure this out. Let him focus on that, because if he could, you bring him back, he has a couple bad performances. It's just going to get deeper and deeper, and it's just not going to be good for it. The club's mindset, the manager's mindset, and then especially in his mindset, because he's not.
Chase, I want to go to Neil. I know we've talked a great length. We've talked a great length about Antony right now and what's playing off, and we all have our opinions, whether pro, cons, negatives, etc. How does this now? You've got to look. The question I have for Neil: if you're Jadon Sancho or Palestri right now, you've got to be licking your lips right now, haven't you?
Oh, 100%. I've been saying, you put Palestri on that wing, yeah? You put Palestri on that wing. Those cutbacks, Højlund will lap them up.
Right, it's Neil, bro. Sorry,
That's
mate.
just my opinion, anyway.
I think we're getting overexcited here.
Listen.
No. Wait.
We have a right to be. Look how much negativity surrounded the club.
No, let me land. Right. So come Brighton, we've got the positive news that the injuries that we have, the list is being shortened. Maynard's coming back. It looks like he's in contention. Mount's in contention. Amrabat. Just to name the few. I'm telling you now.
Not back yet, is he?
Say again?
Varane's not back yet.
No,
is
not
he?
yet.
No,
Not yet.
Varane
Not yet.
Not yet.
might be back for Bayern.
What they say on Varane? What, 6 weeks?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
6
they're
weeks.
saying
Oh,
he
it's
might
end
be
of
back for
September.
Bayern.
But but I can guarantee you, if Mason Mount is match fit, he will be ahead of Sancho and Pellistri on that right wing.
Yeah,
I've got no
100%.
problem with that. I
We
have
were-
no
Yeah.
problem with Mason Mount on the right either.
That was my thinking of this whole situation. Me and
Yes.
Sheik were talking about that as well before we jumped on here. Is I think it's Mount. I think Mount will replace Antony's position in the time
It
being,
makes sense.
unless Pellistri and Sancho could show something brilliant in training, then I think Mount will get that right wing position.
I agree.
Speaking of Capellestri, did anyone see him cook on international duty?
No, I didn't see that.
I feel like my thing about
Is he
Pellistri.
Ericsson?
I feel
Yeah.
like I feel about my thing with Pellistri is he ready to take that next jump?
I think he is.
Oh, of
Dude,
course
to be
he is,
fair-
man. Look at the way you plays.
It's
You
nah,
are
dude. I
elite.
don't. Pellistri, I have no problem with that. And I'll tell you why. The fact that he goes to a World Cup and he was Uruguay's best player tells me
Yeah.
everything. And you've got Valverde, as Chase said, Valverde there. Okay,
All right, Valverde.
there it is. So you've got players like Valverde there. You had Cavani. You had who's that guy that plays for Liverpool?
Wasn't the biter too?
Oh,
Yeah, the
no.
biter Suarez, Nunes.
He was
I've got a damn
crying.
good team.
Yeah,
he was
well,
the best
I
player.
I feel like Jody with Pellistri, to the point that you chase is he ready? Well, we're not going to know if he's ready unless we give him that chance, because you need to give every young player a chance to
Exactly,
prove
Xander. We haven't
themselves
given him the chance.
that they can be a first teamer and see what they're like. And I don't feel like Pellistри's got that. Yes, he's coming on, a couple minutes here off the bench and all that, but that's not giving him a chance. Start him on, Mount, fine, yeah. But I would say start him on against Brighton, see how it is, and then if Ten Hag doesn't like it, it is what it is. But at least you've given him that chance, and Ten Hag might go, I'm going to put him out on loan in January
Listen,
to get in another league. Well, let me finish this, and then you can come back in.
Go on.
Out in another league, and if he does well there for the 6 months, a team at Ten Hag knows, I think a Dortmund might be well. Put him there and then take him back and then start him next season. But you have to give youngsters a chance. There's none of I don't understand why Ten Hag doesn't do it, because we'll never know if they're ready unless you give him that chance. And I feel like Pellistri hasn't got that chance. He didn't get it under Ollie. Ahmad didn't get it under Ollie, but Ten Hag's given Ahmad chances, and it doesn't look like what he was last season at Sunderland. I think Ahmad needs to go along to a Premier League club, or loan Pellistri out to a Premier League club, because at least he's getting Premier League football, and then he will be ready for next season. We'll never know with youngsters, and we've done it too much under certain managers where you don't give youngsters enough, and then they go somewhere else and they.
You say give them a chance, but at the end of the day, you also have to prove yourself in training to earn that chance to play in the first team, and that's the big point. We do not know what's going on. Everybody's been going on about Sancho starting over Antony over the last so many weeks, and don't want Antony in the team. We should be playing Sancho on the right, and lo and behold, the manager confirmed it. Whether people believe it or not, but he confirmed it, and he says that he's been not showing it in training. That just doesn't happen over one day. That's an accumulation of stuff.
The manager's also spoken very high. Pellistri said he's given him a headache in training because he keeps on working hard. So,
but now he has a chance.
Yeah, now he has a chance. I have to agree.
Yep.
And I think that's a
Sorry,
big thing.
Chase. Go ahead.
I think that's a big thing. Learning about Ten Hag is you have to work in training to get your chance. Yeah. It's not about give this kid a chance. He looks promising when he has a couple minutes. That's a lot. What I'm learning from Ten Hag is you got to work your ass off on that training pitch to get a chance.
It's true.
Look at Garnacho last year. He said that Garnacho, start of last season, he said Garnacho wasn't training well and he wasn't. And he kind of fed him in through the season, didn't he? Because he said at the start of the season he wasn't ready. And then by the end of the season, he was getting in the team.
I don't know if you guys remember when Garnacho signed his contract and Ten Hag gave that speech to him and his family, and said exactly this about he's got here, but he needs to work harder.
Yeah, it's true. He did say that. He openly said he's got to work harder.
And he's probably doing that with all the youngsters as well. it's not about just making it, because a lot of what happens at United, especially with us fans in it as well, is that we see promising youngsters coming through, but then when they dare to take the next step up, sometimes it's a bit beyond them, or sometimes it's done too soon. You don't get that where, like, we had Rashford who got a chance because of injuries and he took his chance. That doesn't happen often, in a sense that it doesn't happen all the time. It's like a once off, in a sense, or 9 times out of 10 where that happens, where someone is a duck to water, where you can throw them in the deep end and they'll just take the opportunity. So every youngster is not the same, and I think with Ten Hag the main thing is mentality as well. It's a big part of what he wants within his team. It's not about the talent.
There's only been one youngster to come through at United when it's not been an injury crisis in the last 10 years, and that's Scott McTominay. Every other youngster you can think of came through during an injury crisis.
Yeah.
Scott McTominay's the only one who hasn't.
That's true.
Yeah, and another
That's
thing,
why I think he has the strongest mentality out of all of them, because he forced himself into the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you remember
it wasn't an injury crisis that's caused Scott McTominay come in. It's just been lack of footballing leadership that has caused Scott McTominay to come into that midfield. Because if you had competent owners when we've been screaming for investment into that midfield, I don't think Scott McTominay would have got as much of a chance.
I completely disagree with that. Respectfully, I disagree with that statement. Jose had a damn good midfield at that time, to be fair, in 2017 when Scott broke through. And people forget that. Jose had Marion Fellaini, he had Ander Herrera, Michael Carrick, he had Daley Blinn, he had Pogba. Did I mention Ander Herrera?
Yeah, you did.
He had 6 or 7
another
Daley
thing
Blinn as well.
I feel like one player we've been missing is someone like Ander Herrera.
I was about to say, yeah,
actually, now we've got him back. With all due respect, we've got an upgrade on Ander Herrera. We've got Amrabat. With respect,
that remains to be seen yet. I'll wait until he starts playing Premier League games.
Can I just say something on Scott McTominay though?
Well, here we go.
Scottish.
Signing for Rangers.
Well, I personally think Scott McTominay's winning the Ballon d'Or this year. Anyway, McTominay.
Okay, RK. Guys, meet our version of RK.
McTominay, when he was coming through, he wasn't a midfielder. He was a striker, and people have a go at him and say, "Oh, you sent a CDM." You know, well, he ain't, because when he was coming through the academy, he was a striker. And he was pretty well. And I think time and time again, we've seen it. You play McTominay and pack and roll. He's done well. You know, do you remember that Leeds game, Jody, where he scored them 2 goals very early on because you gave him that freedom to go forward and be that box to box, and he was really well there.
He's not a 6. He's an 8. He's an 8 stroke. He's not a 10, but he's an 8 stroke 9.
And do you remember when Casemiro came in last season? How well McTominay played before Casemiro got his chance.
Yeah. McTominay kept him out of the team, to be fair, didn't he? Up until the City game.
Yeah, them 5 games. And I personally think, you know, with youngsters and that at this club is...
He ain't a youngster anymore. He ain't a kid.
No, yeah, I know, but this is like a point I wanted to make with the youngsters at this club. You know, you look at McTominay, look at that midfield he came into, Jody. I think it's a really good midfield, really good players. And, you know, he got into that team and he's done well for us. I think he's been a good servant. But with youngsters, you know, look at McTominay, he's got the mentality whereas he's never going to give up. He's always going to give 100%. And I think a lot
because he fought his way through. He didn't come through on an injury crisis.
Exactly. He had to prove to Mourinho show Mourinho something to start him. And he did. And I think a lot of youngsters, you know, after that, didn't really have that. And I think with Ten Hag, now we're getting that back where they're ready to give 100% and they're fighting their way in. I like that. But what I don't like with Ten Hag is with last season, I think there's certain games where you could have started a youngster in the cup games, do you know what I mean? Where you might not need to get that injury with Eriksen might not have happened, do you know what I mean? But I understand that he's trying to prove a point, but when he's trying to prove a point, there's a bit of like, you're taking it a bit too far now, Ten Hag. Like, come on, rotate. And, you know, I think that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do.
I think we'll come back to that, Xander, in another show. I think we'll look at that for next weekend about how we develop you from a different show.
On that, I just want to make one comment on that. I think one reason he didn't I think it was very important that he won something last year for the mentality to try and get some
Agree.
winning mentality into that team. And I think he wanted a proven team that could do that.
He
And I think
wanted to
that's why
live.
he
He
did-
lift spirits by winning at least a trophy and getting top 4.
Okay.
And
Guys, I want to move on to our final topic, which is the TRA comment. And actually, leading this will be Jake with the TRA comment. He's going to read out a statement and he's going to lead the entire conversation on it. So please chime in. I'm just going to turn the light on.
Yeah, no worries, mate. So let me just get it up. So I'll share a tweet earlier that was shared, which I've shared with you guys. Let me just bring it up. So, TRA, approximately 2 weeks ago, we were given information that led us to believe that the TRA has been classified as a risk group. We have been advised that any group being classified as risk at football could have serious implications for the group or anyone who belongs to it, and that you all, as TRA members, are now more likely to be subject to prejudicial treatment should you come to the attention of authorities at or around football for any reason. We take our members' welfare very seriously and don't believe you, your families or friends deserve to be discriminated against merely because you want to passionately support United. On Tuesday, a meeting was held at Hotel Football with 25 representatives of the 400 plus fixed group members, and a decision not to run TRA for the Crystal Palace League Cup and Galatasaray games under the present conditions was voted for unanimously. The club has warned us that they may instead attempt to run an atmosphere section without TRA. We would prefer that instead of attempting to create their own atmosphere, they would support unequivocally all of our and your ongoing efforts and initiatives to improve the atmosphere. We'll release more information as soon as we have it. In the meantime, TRA will be running for the next 8 league games, as the seat moves for these games have already been processed by the club. If you are a youth season ticket holder and are concerned you may be split from a family member or someone you need to be seated with for these cup games, we advise that you contact the club immediately. We are currently waiting for a detailed explanation and satisfactory resolution in time for us to be able to run the ballot for the Copenhagen match, which the club require from us by the 18th of September. We trust that the rest of you feel as strong as we all do about the TRA, trust the decision and stand with us for the longer term good of the atmosphere, and just as importantly, the perception of you as an individual and TRA as a group. So I think it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts, everyone, on this. So I'm guessing it's still going to be a free-for-all, so chime in. I know, Paul, that you said that you had looked into this statement that I'd shared with you. So I don't know if you wanted to kick it off.
Yeah, the United have emailed every single member of the TRA with an update on it, and it's kind of what I thought of it as well. United don't actually class a group as a risk group. They actually have to talk with the Greater Manchester Police, and the police are actually the first ones that initiate it. But they sent an email out earlier on to all TRR members. This is from Manchester United. The club is aware of a statement has been made by the Red Army TRA today, informing members the group will not be managing the atmosphere section of our fixtures against Palace in the Carabao Cup and Galatasaray in the Champions League. The statement for the TRA states approximately 2 weeks ago we were given information led to believe the TRA has been classed as a risk group. For clarity, Manchester United has never considered or classified the TRA as a risk group. In early March, following the placement of the TRA in the S229 for the Barcelona match, local authorities stated a communication to the club that the TRA may be a risk group. We immediately discussed the issue with the leaders of the TRA and agreed our chief operating officer would meet with Greater Manchester Police to question this logic. Our COO met with the Greater Manchester Police and received confirmation that the TRA were not classified as a risk group of supporters. The above clarification was shared on the 26th of May with the TRA. We have not had any further updates from the GMP to say they've reclassified the TRA as a risk supporters, and we do not expect to. We're disappointed the TRA are not running the section for these cup games, as fixtures represent 2 very important matches, key to the competitions, and the atmosphere section plays such a vital role in supporting for the team at big moments. We are proud of what has been achieved, and the support section provides Eric and his team, and we will continue to try and work with the TRA, as it is not for the interest of the team, the fans, and TRA members that the section is not operational. So that's basically United saying that the way the risk procedure usually works is they get communication from police that they may be a risk group. and then there's communication on the side. So I don't know what to make of it, because I would like to see what information the TRA has received to think that they may be used as a risk group. Because obviously it's coming from the original thing about them maybe being a risk group has come from the Greater Manchester Police. So it'll be interesting to see what information the TRA have.
I'm curious to know, you've brought that up, I'm curious to know where they've got this information from, because this smells like the reason this could be another stunt similar in my head to a Glazers out move. Trying to push the Glazers out by saying the TRA is not going to support Manchester United anymore in terms of what we do. And this may be another form of protest. I could be 100% wrong. I hope I am.
I tend to agree with you, Jody.
Go on,
the
Masood.
1958 did say they were going to make an announcement about something else tomorrow as well.
I don't know. I don't know if that is going to be correlated though, because the 1958 have been pushing their countdown for some days now.
Jump in.
I mean, to be honest with you, I just think this may be another move. What do you think, Masood?
I'm not sure. Look, I didn't even read the statements because I was at waiting earlier today, so I didn't even know the statement came out until I saw our Twitter group with Sheikh's tweet and stuff. So that's when I saw it, and then I reposted all the stuff when I saw it. So I was actually quite shocked when I saw that, because I mean, the singing section or the atmosphere section, from me as a fan watching out in South Africa, it comes through on TV and it as well.
It's massive. Seriously, when you're around the world and you hear that, when you hear "Glory, Glory, Man United" on TV, trust me, it's amazing to hear. You do get. I mean, I get homesick when I'm abroad when I hear it.
Yeah, like, you know, when I first heard the statement, I thought this might be another
Rangers do?
No, it's not. It's not that. If this happened up here, trust me, Ibrox would be burnt down to the ground, get down for arson, murder. I'm joking. And but when I first heard of it, Jody, I thought might be a Glazers another attempt to take the fans away. You know, the working class. You know, United was for the working class people. I thought this would be an attempt at that, and what Paul has just said, it's not that. The club don't classify the TRA as a risk group. They know that they need to be there. United need them. And if you remove any atmosphere in any football ground, they're ultras. You're pretty much taking what the other fans lead. Like, the ultras lead the atmosphere at any football. I know they're not, you know, they are. The TRA are United's ultra group. And you take that from any football, you know, any football ground, you're pretty much just ruining what it means. Like, you know, but I personally think that if the police are classifying it, then the club have got to follow what the police is, and that's
I agree.
At the end
of the day. Zander, I think you make a good point there, but I think I think it's important to understand the definition, the actual definition of what risk group means, and I don't think that's made very clear. The easy assumption to make is that risk here, because of the traction that the protests are getting, and you know,
it's something like,
is it a risk to the ownership of the club? Which it is, and it's a fact, because the movement glazes out.
I think that's the biggest thing here, is them wording risk on it. What is that pertaining to?
Exactly.
If they're using the definition of the risk group, what it basically means is if it's the risk group in a footballing sense, it means the local police have defined a section of supporters as a risk to public safety, and they're under more scrutiny in the game. So the police will be paying a bit more attention to them. There's more stewards in that area. If there's any sign of trouble, the police have the authority then to move in and remove them people from the stadium. So that apparently is the information that the TRA have received. I would think the TRA, to be totally honest, need to come out and say what information they've received, because I'm all for Glazers out. I'm totally want them gone, but when you're claiming one thing and the club are coming out and saying something completely different, you're not attacking the Glazers, you're attacking the people that work in the club as well. Because I don't like that kind of thing. I totally want the Glazers out, but I rather it's done in a truthful manner. And if somebody is sending false information to the TRA, that doesn't help.
Yeah,
we have to,
Can
it
the
doesn't.
risk? Can the risk be maybe well, I don't know if it's the police or whatever it is. Could the risk be maybe the club or the police having what happened when the European Super League, when the game got called off against Liverpool, a repeat incident of that, maybe that they preempting or
No, they're just saying the group of supporters are not following the guidelines. They're saying that group of supporters are a risk group because they could invade the pitch, they could damage the area, they could start a riot. That's what a definition of a risk group is by the police. So if they start doing, even if you're classed as a risk group of fans and you start doing chants where you're swearing, saying people should die, they can eject you from the stadium. They get the power from the police to reject you.
It's interesting. Yeah, you might. Sorry, Xander, mate. I'll bring you in a sec. Apologies, mate. Yeah. It's interesting, or was it? And Neil, I'll bring you in as well because you haven't commented on the topic, and Jono. But it's interesting you say that. The thing that was being shared quite a lot, and again, the sit-in protest was amazing, but Joel Glazer's gonna die chant was heavily moving around Twitter, and obviously that section next to the Stretford end that consists of circa 3,000 seats that are running the ballots lead the atmosphere of the chants. Everything is led by that, and it spreads around the stadium. I wonder if that particular chant itself has had an implication negatively on what's actually coming out today.
I think that's what it is, partly as well. You can't be going around screaming. Like, I get some of the hashtags. I think the fan base has gone. I'm not saying gone too far. I know you want the Glazers out, but then you're screaming for the Glazers to die, their children to die.
And burning hell also, I seen the other day.
The burning hell.
No, I mean that's the main hashtag that's being used. I only use
I just use Glazers out. Glazers full sail now.
I use Glazers out and full sail only.
Yeah, that's the only two I use as well.
If there's one
levels,
then I can understand attacking the Glazers. Okay, attack them, but as I've always said, no matter if their children are 18 and grown, that's still their children. There's no.
Yeah, I also don't agree with that. I seen someone post the other day.
There's no need to go after them because they haven't.
To be fair, I personally, you all know, I went after Libby Glazer's business because, like I said, my connection, the way Libby Glazer's business was set up, there was a dividend taken from United 2 days. Her company was registered. Her aunts built her business for her. And to be fair, the money, Joel Glazer doesn't make money elsewhere, unlike Darcy Glazer. So we all know where that money came from. Now, I didn't go on attack and slander her on social media. I just left bad reviews.
Yeah, I have a different point of view on this chorus thing.
Go for it.
I know this is a United show, but if you look at it, the risk view, and you look at, this is the only time I'll ever bring this up on here, the Old Firm. The reason why I don't know if you remember, Georgie, do you remember when both sections of the Rangers and Celtic fans, they would get a whole stand? The reason why they reduced that down to 800 was the risk. There was too many fights.
The Glasgow used to be a nightmare in the 90s.
Exactly, because of the Old Firm. There was too many fights, there was a lot of deaths and all that. They reduced that because the police were like, well, they couldn't cope. They were getting outstretched, and it was pretty much a losing ground. So that's why it's 800 now. And I know that the last two have been no fans, but the risk is always there. That when it's like that. The police don't want, a Manchester derby or I know it's stupid. They don't want the public safety that have nothing to do if they're not United fans. They don't want the public getting, and innocent people might be getting hurt from bottles throwing. And if we have another sorry, I'm stuttering. A pitch invasion like at Liverpool, they don't want people like security guards and all that getting hurt. They just don't want it. And I know it might sound stupid. Is if someone has given false information to the TRA that the club have said that, then I think that person who has who's giving the false information is in the wrong. They should
Yeah.
said that.
I mean,
Well, you have to look at it as well. What the club has done in the past. If the club wanted to get rid of the TRA due to them being a risk group, they didn't even have to do anything. They could just have not have fought the GMP when the GMP were saying that they think the TRA are a risk group before the Barcelona match.
Based on that statement, they went to bat for the TRA.
They
From the looks
batted
of that
for the
statement.
TRA. From the looks of that statement, I wish a TRA member could come on and confirm that then they communicated with them. So it seems that the GMP approached United before, and in March last year, so it's not that long ago, and said, we believe this group could be a risk group. Yeah, what do you think? And the Manchester United have gone, they're not a risk group. We'll talk to the TRA. They've gone back then and sent the COO, our operating officer, to the GMP to basically say they're not.
Which is Richard Arnold.
No, not Richard Arnold.
No.
It's their COO.
Oh, the COO.
It's our
Colette, isn't it Colette Rose?
Yeah,
Colette Rose?
it's the theme. Yeah, I couldn't remember her name, but she then went to the GMP and then argued the case, saying, "Look, they're not a risk group. Yes, they do the Glazer out chance to owner chance, but they don't pose a risk." Now, if something has changed after that sit-in protest, maybe, but if they wanted to get rid of them, they could have easily have pinned it on the Greater Manchester Police and got rid of them. They could have done it months ago. A risk, as I say, a risk group is a divine definition, Xander. It is literally a group of fans that will cause trouble, and the police could identify them as a risk group, so the club can give them permission to remove them. So if you're defined as a risk group, what it basically allows the police to do, if you're identified as a risk group, the club agree with that, and they say, yeah, they're a risk group. The second the police think that there's any trouble from that group, they can eject you from the stadium without having to get pre-authorized from the actual club stewards. So the police can reject you. It gives the police the power to trespass you on the spot without having the club issue a trespassing statement. So they can just pick you up and drop you out. That's what a risk group identification does.
100%. That's why I brought up the. Sorry.
So it's basically, instead of giving them a leeway, it's just.
It just basically gives the police the powers to remove people as soon as they seem to fit without having to contact the stewards.
Yeah.
When?
But that's why
something like that's already happened during the whole Super League. Calling off the Liverpool game. Some people got arrested at that game. So if they want,
that's because they broke COVID protocols. Different matter. The police automatically had the power because the stadium wasn't open to the public.
But still, at the same time, they could have still labelled TRA as a risk group then, because they were TRA.
Yeah, because they weren't identified in their section. They weren't at a match. The TRA, because there was no tickets for that match. That match was a closed-off stadium. So the police arrested people that broke into the stadium and broke COVID quarantines.
They could have still painted the group with the same brush at the exact same time.
Because people were outside, they weren't in their section. The TRA is in a section, so you can identify the TRA section. Generally, when you identify risk groups and fan groups, they're usually a fan group is in a section of the stadium. You look at other stadiums around the world. When you look at the main stand in Italy, they have their ultra section. That's a risk group. Their ultras are a risk group, but they're in one section.
That's why I brought up the point about the Old Firm, that the Celtic and you've got the Green Brigade and you've got the Union Bears for the Rangers. I'm sorry to bring it up again, Jody. I won't. They're a risk group. They've got their own section.
Sorry to interrupt. Casemiro has just thrown a spanner in the works over the Sancho argument whilst on international duty.
What did he say?
He's saying on international duty, he was asked about Sancho training, and he turned around and said with a straight face, at training, Sancho is the most dedicated trainer at United every day.
Oh, yeah, but
yeah,
the point I was making on that TRA thing.
Bro, I genuinely think Ten Hag's got a huge problem now.
Yeah.
Right.
No, Casemiro didn't. As he repeated that statement because he made that statement. He made that statement 6 months ago. Longer.
Around. They were asked on this, that he was asked on international duty this weekend, and he's come out and said, Jadon Sancho is the best trainer at Manchester
Do
United.
you know what?
He's-
I mean, without.
I don't think
giving-
he's going to say anything bad against his teammates. So
No, I don't
he's
think he is
gonna-
either.
Yeah,
but it doesn't
John-
help the cause. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, no,
But
this is right. You got to look at this matter two ways. I know we've deviated from the topic we were talking about.
Apologies, gentlemen.
No
No,
problem.
it's fine.
It's a good talking point, mate. It's a very good talking point. So before I do, obviously the comments that I make about the chants in the stadium, I'm not going to take it away from that. The protests have been peaceful because they are peaceful, and I think the 1958 and the TRA and whoever else is involved in supporting the Glazers Out movement has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can deny that matter. But this Sancho thing, right, is interesting because could you classify Casemiro now going against Ten Hag?
No, I just don't think he wants to put attack his players. I think he's just.
Sorry, John. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to attack his teammates. So I think he's kind of just
So, but this is the thing we were saying. It's been a heavy topic of discussion, right, amongst the spaces that we've all been involved in since this came out. It's still pinned on his profile, by the way. It's still pinned.
Yeah, but another thing people have to remember: if the captain of Man United was speaking, he would have called out a player's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Because we know Bruno Fernandes does do it.
Jody, what I'm thinking is here. Now, if we kind of track back to a few months ago, how long was Sancho sent on that individual training in the Netherlands? How long was it? Was it like a month?
3 months.
3 months.
No,
He was in the mountains. He was away for 3 months. Yeah.
Okay. So he was away for 3 months. Now let's just kind of.
Why do people keep saying he went to the mountains? By the way,
because he was in the mountains. He was training in the mountains.
He was in the Netherlands. That's what I know. So now
I don't know what his mountains there.
Right. So he was training there for 3 months.
He was in the
Alps.
Alps.
What was he training for? Is my next question.
What
role? What individual training?
I think it was general fitness, wasn't it?
Fitness, mentality, physical and mental well-being.
No, but there was a position. There was a positional change. If anyone remembers.
Number 10.
No,
through the
he
middle.
Didn't play the 10 when he came back.
Right.
He never played the 10 when he came back.
Did you not?
Yeah, and the reason why I think this is.
I mean, he played false 9 pre-season, but he hasn't played another position.
Yeah. So, in that individual training regime or program that he had, he was, getting an idea of how to play the false 9 role, essentially. So maybe what's happened here is the club have gone and signed Højlund, who's an out-and-out number 9, right? Now Sancho's like, okay, I'm ready. And this is just another angle to see it as, I'm ready. I want to start there. Why am I not getting a chance or a shot in there when we don't have a 9 in yet?
Well, I can answer that because you don't pay $100 million for a fidget spinner and not play it.
And he's upset that he's basically going to be sitting on the bench until Højlund's injured to get thrown on. It could be that he wants to play that position.
But the thing is with Sancho, this isn't the first time. This isn't a first story club that has happened. It's happened at
England.
He did the same thing with England. He did the same thing with City. He's done the same thing with Dortmund. Now, Ten Hag didn't have to send him out for 3 months to get him right. He could have kept him at the club. You know what? You need to figure your stuff out off the pitch, and you need to come back to training to do your job. This and that. He didn't have to do what he did for Sancho, and he did. And obviously, there's something Sancho's not doing in training that he's not happy with. And
sorry, Chase. Sorry to cut you off.
And that I think that's the biggest thing with Sancho is stop fucking whining and handle it on the training ground.
Wasn't there a report yesterday that last night that came out saying that Ten Hag is somewhat surprised with all the nonsense since the Sancho story has happened?
Bro, that's just paper talk. You know how paper talk is.
Yeah, no. I remember seeing that yesterday.
Guys, we deviated off the actual story, and that's my fault. I just wanted to wrap up on the TRA with Shake wrap up on the TRA thing and close the show off. I'm sure most of us are going to jump in on space on Twitter anyway. So, Shake, I want you to wrap up your thoughts on the TRA and what should happen or where it should go, what United should do, and I'll close off with you.
Again, I think that just opens up a massive can of worms there. But it's an interesting topic. I mean, I think I agree with Paul. I think a statement needs to be made, definitely, on the TRA's position, just for an understanding point of view. And I hope that this matter can be put to bed. It just seems like a bad thing after bad thing keeps happening all the time now. So just a bit of clarification. I agree with Paul definitely there. But yeah, guys, I'm happy for you to add any additional comments on your thoughts.
I just
real
want
quick.
to say something. Is it alright if I say something on that the Sancho thing, then you can close off? Because a point I wanted
Go on,
to make.
Xander. I know
Yeah,
you've had a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, a point I wanted to make. I love Sancho. I think you all know that. As I rate him as a player.
Love Ryan Kellen.
I love Ryan Kellen. Oh, friends. I think.
Even the dog was upset about that.
I agree with what Sheikh said on the space was that why would the club on the morning of the Arsenal game, when Sancho didn't travel, didn't want to speak about it, they refused to speak about it, and then someone's obviously gave him Ten Hag the permission to speak about it in a press conference. He specifically mentioned Sancho's name, didn't mention anyone else. I think the club is to blame here because you shouldn't say we're not going to speak about it and then allow him to speak about it. And I think Ten Hag and Sancho shouldn't have came out and with that statement. And I think he worded it wrong. I think he could have worded it better.
Maybe Ten Hag.
But also, a report did come out, John, that they're going to sit down today, not today, on Monday, and have a talk about it.
Maybe Ten Hag did want to talk about it though, but he didn't want it to come out before before the Arsenal game because he didn't want to distract.
Just to add on that, John, the club made the statement that they refused to comment, not Ten Hag.
Yeah. Exactly.
The club
and Ten Hag was just asked an innocent question. He was asked about McTominay and Sancho specifically.
He wasn't answering an innocent question. They hounded him since Friday.
They hounded him on
Saturday. They hounded him Sunday.
Before the weekend.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they specifically asked him about McTominay and Sancho, and he answered the McTominay part, and the Sancho part came out with the training. So it wasn't like he went out himself and said Sancho is not training well, and he made the statement. He was just answering a question, which was like 15 seconds or something.
Yeah, totally fair. When it comes to a situation like that, the clubs are right to give no comment on it. If the manager wants to comment on the performance of his players and his team, I think the manager has the ultimate right to comment on what he sees because, to be fair to the club, they don't see the players in training every week. The manager does. Yeah. So if the manager wants to comment on his training, it's up to the manager to make that decision. But I think I can't remember who said. Yeah, no, it's my mic, mate, because when it's on, it highlights. I think somebody said it. Was it Ryan Giggs did his interview?
Oh God! Don't bring me into a conversation. It's going to be another hour conversation.
No. But I was talking about what he said about Sancho. He says, "Is this the manager giving the last straw to try and get a performance out of Sancho, which is calling him out publicly?" As much as you want to say.
Hang on, I would understand if Sancho's performances were bad, but Sancho started the season ridiculously good. He was our best player in pre-season, and he finished the season as our best player.
But then again, you do not see what's performance on the training pitches.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Also, at the same time, hang on 1 second. Let me just add this: performances on the train pitches doesn't win games. Yes, I believe in preparation. Don't get me wrong. I believe in preparation, and I truly believe in preparation. That's the philosopher
that your manager has. Yeah, but Judy, that's what your manager. If Ten Hag, it's the same. No, it's the same. It's the same reason why Ferguson didn't sanction the Tevez move. Tevez looks like a player that would have played, that would have given us all in training. Didn't do anything in training. Played fantastically on the pitch, and Ferguson didn't sanction the move for Tevez because he said he didn't want to set a bad example. He said it.
Trains hard, but it's shit on the pitch. Which one is it?
But he does the job that he does the job that Ten Hag sets out for him to create that balance in that team.
A defensive winger?
No, not a defensive winger. He retains the ball and but you watch the balance of that team, and I'm sorry, and you are going to notice it when Antony's not in that team. The balance in that team is going to be off.
I think United is going to be a lot better when Anthony's not on that pitch, and we were a lot better when Sancho was in that right position for the last 5-6 games.
Do you know what?
And that is
I
a
think he was
fact.
really good at. I think
Can I just say
some of the work he
something?
did against Arsenal.
I know
Anthony's work ethic is second to none. He just lacks one thing, and I've always said this with Anthony because you guys know how much I love my little fidget spinner
his
from
decision
Brazil.
making.
I just want him to have that final product. That's it.
Yeah.
Because that's what
It's
been ultimately
frustrating.
judged on.
He's frustrating.
He's not. That's the problem. He's got such ability. It's scary. I think he's got Ballon d'Or ability.
Can I?
Yeah, but Jody, if you look at his compilations that we always see on YouTube and on Twitter and stuff, he's not afraid to cross the ball and stuff. But for this last year at United, I just see he's been scared to do it. I don't know what's been holding him back in a sense.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a striker, maybe.
Well, that's exactly it.
This was the biggest thing for Antony, when because I mean everyone gets confused when you watch compilations. You have to watch.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree with that statement.
I feel like you have to watch full games when he was at Ajax, and I started doing that, really paying attention to him. And when it was him, Haller, and Tadic, my God, was Antony special. I mean, he would cross
He
the
needed
ball,
a striker.
use both. He used both feet. A lot of people try and say he doesn't have a right foot.
He does. He actually does.
Really
I tell people this.
Maybe it's a confidence thing also.
I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think, Judy, when you say you need a striker, I think it's right because at the end of the day, when you're playing a system type of football, in that system type of football, the reason why Pep's system works so well is because not only do you know your position on the pitch, you know your teammates' position on the pitch.
Agreed.
And generally, what have our wingers not worked with? They've not worked with a striker. So half of the time they need to look up to see, has our midfield gone into the box? Has the opposite side pushed into the box before they pass the ball? What you'll see, hopefully, over the next couple of weeks and months is they're just naturally crossing the ball because they know Højlund is in there somewhere. I just need to pass the ball in there. You know, just a natural instinct. You look up, you see the red shirt, you know that's Højlund. You knock the ball in. Sometimes that's just repetition. It's just you do it on the training pitch, you do it in the match, and it'll build and it'll build and it'll build. But I need to go, guys, so I will catch you all
Take
later.
care. I'm going to wrap the show up. So I want to
Jody,
thank
before you wrap the show up, can I just jump in quickly and just give Xander condolences for the rugby today?
I think South Africa lost. They lost 6-0. We beat them. Ryan Kent scored. Rangers won the treble last season. Morelos winning the Ballon d'Or, and I think Antony is a fidget spinner from Brazil. And
leave my fidget spinner alone. I love.
I
him.
will not do that.
Don't come
and I
after
think,
my boy.
and I think we need to put every time Antony plays, we need to put a net behind because the amount of shots he has, it's unsafe for the public. That's a risk.
One thing I was trying to get in before we end was on Sancho. Like, the abuse Ten Hag got on it, I don't agree with because you didn't see the same abuse for Southgate when Southgate questioned his training. You didn't see the same abuse when
but no one cares about England. People actually care about Man United.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think I don't think anyone should be subject to any abuse of any sort anyway, regardless. They're there to do a job. It's not worried abuse. I can accept criticism, but abuse, it just creates an agenda, and I don't get involved in that. But back to you, Jody.
Okay, I want to thank all the speakers for coming on, taking the time. Actually, to be fair, we would have been on bloody Twitter anyway, wouldn't we? So it's what's the difference it make. So on behalf of all the speakers, thank you all for coming on. We have been your magnificent 24/7 Reds, Sports Social Podcast Network. Thank them for having us on. And obviously we'll have a show again next week. So it's just to see everyone in next week. So thank you all for being on. And who's running a space now? I'm putting it on Shake.
You make me win everywhere. You showed me how to spread my wings.